doctor said, look, we're going to send you to the best liver specialist in the country. He's going to get everything figured out. And in the meantime, can you like exercise? And you want to get your BMI in like a normal range. So like at that point, my weight was like a little bit heavier. And so I was like, like how can I exercise when I am in pain all the time and I'm tired all the time and I'm dizzy? Like how am I supposed to exercise? But he gave me some ideas. He was like, look, you could do walking, you could do this, do that. So I was like, all right, I'll do my best. I'll give it a shot. Obviously I have to do something. And he said, the other thing is that you have to stay away from alcohol and fatty foods. And that made me so sad because I knew that the holidays are coming up. The holidays are my favorite foods. And I just love to indulge and eat all the sweets. And he knows that I have a huge sweet tooth. So he's like, you gotta stay away from those things. So super bummed about that. And the other thing was that he said, the specialist is definitely worth going to, but the only thing is that they're not available until January. So this meant a long time of waiting. We got to do it because if this is the best specialist in the country, then like I really want to make sure that I have, like a good look at this and a good understanding and someone who knows what they're doing. That's great. If they're the best, that's awesome. So after meeting with the doctor, I was definitely very upset. And I pulled John aside and I said, look, I need to talk to you. And he could tell I was really upset. And I kind of let him know what the doctor had said and that we had to postpone having kids, and that I wasn't sure what this meant for even having kids. I was just really upset. And so, he was really concerned. And I said, look, we're going to, he was like, I feel like he's like my knight in shining armor, because he was like, like, hope this shouldn't be that bad. Everything's going to be fine. Like, we're going to see what the doctor says. And, no matter what, everything's going to work out. And so he was awesome. And I'm just really happy to have him being so positive. And after just like such a tough year, just just helping to continue to get through everything. So I ended up, I think like that Monday, I ended up going, I really couldn't drive at that point. Like maybe I could do like short distances, but I was just so dizzy. It was definitely not safe for me to drive. I was just feeling so terrible and tired. So I ended up, my husband drove me, because it was like 2 hours to the base. My husband drove me up. And I was like, look, I brought all of like my paperwork for everything. I was like, I have like this medical issue going on and I'm going to have to leave. And it was coming towards the end of the year anyway. So I had intended to stay like until the end of the year. And then I was supposed to go back to work in the new year. But then I wasn't really sure what was going to happen. So like part of me, I was trying to see if I could stay longer. But I was trying to figure out like what to do. So with this going on, I was like, well, I can't like even physically drive up here. I can't drive myself. I just really have to get this medical stuff situated. So I looked so terrible when I went in there. I had no makeup on. I looked so bad. One of the sergeants didn't even recognize me. He was like, I was talking for like a little bit and he was like, Dickinson. He's like, oh my gosh, I didn't even recognize you. And I was like, I know, I look like a zombie. It's pretty bad. I was like, this is how you know that I'm feeling this bad, because normally I wear like at least a little bit of makeup. And I also was in civilian attire, but I think I've been there a couple times in civilian attire when I go to the gym or whatever. So I look bad. I look really bad. So then I feel like the next like several days, it was just kind of like, I feel like every day was the same, just kind of like a blur. It was just every day I was in pain. I had a lot of sternum pain and stomach pain, fatigue. I would feel nauseous, tired. Like I wouldn't even feel like watching TV. I would literally just sit on the couch pretty much like every day, seeing the same thing, not really able to do anything, not really able to do much around the house. And I did try to start walking more though. So luckily I got my dogs. So they were helping me to at least start maybe getting a little bit more activity in, even though I was feeling so horrible. And every single day I was pretty much Googling anything to do with anything wrong with the liver and what it could mean, like will I ever be able to have kids, like every single day I was just like, what is going to happen with my life? And it was just, I feel like I kind of was like falling into a dark hole, because it was like all of these things, all of these dreams, everything that I wanted, like I don't know what is going to happen anymore. And then at the same time I was trying to finish my master. So I think like that same week I was like finishing it up. I just wasn't even caring anymore. I was like, I'm just in so much pain. I feel so awful. If I could just skate by with a C, I was like, that's all I need. I just need to graduate. It's all I need. I was lucky. I did end up getting a B. I was able to kind of like pull things through, but it was brutal. It was brutal. And I had to do a presentation at the end, and you kind of have to like stand in front of the camera because it was through Zoom, and it was just painful to get all of that done. Just brutal. Hated every minute of it. I would have really liked the class a lot more if I hadn't like been going through all these things, because we did learn a lot. And before that, like up until then, I had done really well, and I liked everything that we were learning, everything that we're focusing on. But it just, at the end, it was just really hard. I just wanted to get through. It was just so painful. So then, at the end of the year, so as like a celebration for graduation, and then just like, you know, being back home and done with the mission, like all that stuff, my husband and I had planned to go to Disney for the holidays, and we pretty much knew that we weren't going to be having family over for the holidays, so it wasn't like the big party that we would usually have since COVID. But then we're trying to figure out like, well, now what do we do with this trip? Are we going? Are we not going? I did have a cancellation policy, so I think it was like 24 hours notice I could cancel. But I'm like, okay, now we want to go to Disney, we want to go to Epcot. This is one of my favorite places to go to for the food, for the drinks. Now I can't drink any alcohol, so can't drink at all alcohol at Epcot. I just love the food there so much, like the butterbeer ice cream, the butterbeer, just all the foods at Epcot. There's so many good foods, and I'm like, I don't know if we should even go now. So we were kind of going back and forth. I had to talk to my family about it and figure out what should we do. We had to look at what are the requirements for going. Are the cases going up? Are they going down? Are there going to be like any types of shutdowns? Is there going to be any type of restriction for travel? So we just kind of like waited to see what would happen, and I figured we're probably not going to end up going. Talked to family about it, and I was just like, through the time, I was just, like I said, every single day I was just like feeling so down and down, because I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know, like, am I going to be on disability for the rest of my life? Will I be like this for the rest of my life? Will I ever be able to go back to work? I don't know what's going to happen. So then ultimately, like, the time came around and for like our trip, and so I talked to my family about it, and the restrictions were fine, and like my family that I talked to was kind of like, you know, we think you should go, you know, we think you should just take advantage of this trip. And my husband's like, you know, well, and I too were like, well, I could sit around here, well, but I'm supposed to be, you know, walking and doing these different things, so I could walk around here or I could walk around there, and even if I can't, you know, indulge, at least I could kind of like be out and about a little bit and kind of like exploring, and something to kind of like cheer me up a little bit, because like, I don't know, I was just kind of feeling like really depressed, I guess, like around that time, because like every single day just being in pain like that and just feeling like so terrible, and then not knowing what is going to happen, like having to put off kids and like everything that we've been hoping for, and then all of a sudden this happening, it's like I just kind of needed something to cheer me up. It was a tough year. It was a really tough year. I also kind of wanted to have that time with like my husband and just kind of like be away for a little bit, because I mean, the year was really stressful. It was tough on our marriage. It was one of the toughest years we probably ever had, to be honest. So yeah, so we ended up going on the trip, no alcohol, and I had like a couple things here and there as far as like food wise, but I really didn't go crazy. I I did a lot of walking as much as I could, but like I tried to like not overdo it. If anything was painful, I tried to stay away from that, and I just tried to rest and just be in the moment. I feel like the sun helped a lot, just with like my overall happiness, and then just I guess maybe like the walking that I was getting in. I think it just helped with like, I don't know, I guess they always say like exercise produces endorphins. Endorphins make you happy. So I think like overall I was feeling a little bit better, but like, you know, the pain and the issues were still there. So I also figured that, you know, I don't know what's going to happen with the liver specialist, and for all I know, he could say like, you know, you can never have these foods again, so this might be like the last possible opportunity I could even taste any of these foods. I don't know. So we just figured, oh, and then the other thing was that my husband really didn't have, because of the vacation that we had planned for 2021, my husband didn't really have the extra like vacation left over, and this was from days that he pretty much mostly already had off. So there's pretty much no other time in 2021 that we could go. So because we tried to push it off, we're like, well, maybe we can go like in September or like some other time, but we pretty much, there's nothing that we can make work. Yeah. So anyway, so we went, and then we came back, and you know, still not feeling the best. I enjoyed going. Like I definitely have no regrets about that, because I was just feeling so low that I needed to get away. Like I needed something, like some sort of change of pace or something. And it did cheer me up a little bit. And just being with my like husband, just having time together, it was nice. So January comes around, did our quarantine, finally get to the specialist visit. And this is over a month of being in pain every single day, being tired, having headaches and dizziness, and being in a lot of pain. So we finally get there, and I remember getting in there and like getting to the visit, and the doctor walks in. I remember at first I didn't realize he was a doctor, because he didn't really like, I don't think he introduced himself in the beginning. He just kind of like sat down. I think he like said hello. And like, I feel like maybe normally he would have maybe like shaken my hand and said, I'm Dr. So-and-so, but it's like COVID, so there's like no handshaking thing. So I felt like weird. I was like, is this the like nurse? Like, I don't know who this is. Could be a doctor, I don't know. So it was a doctor. And so the doctor was like, you know, like tell me a little bit about like what's going on. And then like right in the beginning was kind of like, you know, tell me a little bit about your like GI history, like gastrointestinal, like your stomach and all that. And I was like, that's kind of weird. Like, why is he asking me about that? And I was like, well, I did have H. pylori like maybe like 5 years ago, after I went on like a trip to Chicago. And so he was like, oh, interesting, because I was kind of thinking that, you know, I was looking over the results, and I was kind of thinking that more so like might be like the symptoms that you're describing and all of that more so might be something that could be like gastrointestinal. And I'm like, I've waited all these weeks to like go see this doctor, and I'm like, couldn't tell me that over the phone, like what the heck? So then he's like, you know, so I'm like, yeah, but I mean, like, there is something going on with the liver, like, that's, I hear, because, like, the ultrasound and all that, and he was like, yes, you know, so he's explaining that, like, you know, what's going on with the liver, it is something very common, and so then I'm like, okay, like, I'm again in my head, I'm like, couldn't you like have called me this, like, you know, and just like let me know, he I'm sure he doesn't realize, like, I'm sitting here like every single day Googling, like, you know, what is going on with this, like, what is the meaning of this, like, I don't know all of those specific medical things, like the ultrasound terms, so I'm just like Googling them, and like the outcomes and whatever, and so then so he's like, you know, yeah, you should definitely go to a GI doctor, because it's possible that H. pylori could have come back. It could give pain like that, because liver doesn't usually give pain like how you're having. I was like, okay, and then like that makes sense. And then so I'm like, so like the liver's fine, like it's not a big deal. And he's like, well, I mean, we still have to check for scarring, so we're still gonna do like a fiber scan. I'm like, wait, so I feel like I went from thinking it's something crazy to thinking, okay, it's not a big deal, to like, wait, what, liver scarring? Like, So I'm like, okay, fiber scan. Okay, got it. Yeah. So he's like, all right, but we can't like do it today. We have to schedule that, but it should be in like a week or two. So I'm like, okay. Unfortunately, we go to schedule it and they couldn't do it until like a month. So I'm like, oh, this is like a whole another month I'll have to wait. So basically, he's like, yeah, we'll see from the scan if there's any type of scarring or anything like that. We'll see what's going on, or we'll also see if what you do have has gotten worse. So I'm like, okay, I'm trying to make sure I'm eating my best and doing all the right things. And he did mention that I think he was talking about diet and exercise. He was talking about BMI. He said BMI is a really important thing when it comes to your liver. So trying to make sure that that's in line. So I did say yes, like I'll work on having mine like a little bit closer in line. And we're talking about like that, like he's like, do you take in a lot of aspirin? I was like, no, because I worked as a pharmacy technician before, and I once wanted to be a pharmacist, and like I know how much like non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, how much they can impact your stomach and all these different things. So when it comes to taking any type of painkillers or anything, I always take the minimum. I never try to take any narcotics or anything if I have like extreme pain or an injury. I always try to take like the lowest lows of anything that I can take. And he's like, all right, well, are you having a lot of alcohol? And I was like, well, like on Thanksgiving, I did have, I think maybe like 4 small drinks. And he's like, no, that wouldn't do it. Maybe if you're having like a lot of drinks per day. But I was like, no. And honestly, I went months without even having alcohol this year because I was away from the military. So he was like, yeah, so it's probably not that. He's like, honestly, it could just be like a thing of luck. He's like, you're not seriously overweight, and you're not meeting these other criteria, so it could just be just like a random like thing that has happened. But I was asking him about the things that I could eat and whatnot, and like what types of foods. And so he was saying it's not even like the types of food exactly that you're eating, but like maybe I think he was saying how much you're consuming at a time. So if you're super overindulging at once, or just like your calorie consumption throughout the day, if you're eating like extra, then that can kind of lead to having issues with the liver like this. So I said, okay, that totally makes sense. So then I got set up with the fiber scan, and I also made an appointment with the GI specialist, which I'll do that in another video. There's just like so much. So next was the fiber scan. So I go and get the fiber scan done, and it was kind of like an ultrasound, I guess. I remember them doing it like on my side, and I feel like they were pressing like a little bit harder. Now I remember when I did the ultrasound, it was kind of like all over, and every single place that they touched hurt so bad. Every single spot. I was like, what the heck is wrong with me? So for the fiber scan, I don't remember it being like as painful, and they're kind of like going on the side. I think it took maybe like half an hour. And this was with like a technician who specializes in it, so not the actual doctor. And so then after doing the fiber scan, then I had to wait for the results to come in and then go see the doctor. So I had to like wait again for fall to see like what the results were, what was going on. So then I go for my follow-up, get my results, and actually I got the results first because like I think they went to my regular doctor, and my regular doctor let me know. And it said findings consistent with F0-F1 fibrosis, less than or equal to 33% steatosis. So I'm reading this, I have no idea what this means, but I'm freaking out. So then I Google it, and I'm like, this may or may not mean like liver scarring, because like looked like F1 can mean liver scarring. So I'm like, what the heck is going on? So I'm like freaking out. So I end up going for the follow-up, and like every day I was just like, I'm like, what's going on? I'm still in pain. But again, he said it's probably not from that. But I go in, and so then luckily the doctor said, I do not have liver scarring. So I am so relieved. And he said that everything should be fine. I should not even really have to follow up as long as I work on having the BMI at a normal level and work on, you know, my calorie consumption, so it's like not super overindulging, and then I should be fine unless I have any additional issues. And so then I asked him, I said, do you think it will be like safe for me to have kids? Like, do you think I'll have any issues? And he said he didn't think I would have any issues. At least this would not interfere with that. Thank goodness. But I have to follow up with the GI specialist because he doesn't know as far as that. So, so next he said to follow up with the GI specialist. So stay tuned for that.